Thank you for joining us. It's Our Energy Matters with Anthony Manna and Dena Marie. We're looking up.
We're looking up. That looking up means that you come to recognize your worthiness and your value and your beauty. And it's I've learned so much from Dena Marie, my healer, my spiritual leader. There's so many ways that I've come to understand about myself and about what can happen when you recognize your value and when you start to learn to heal. So to everyone out there, yes, this is Our Energy Matters, and to you I say biha. Greetings to our Chinese listeners and viewers on this frigid, wintry day here in Northeast Ohio. And so we should explain that when Dena Marie and I came together and started learning from each other, it was because she had me as a guest on her show, her radio show, Lift Your Spirits. And from that moment on, there was this union of minds and hearts and souls. And so I searched her book, Our Energy Matters, The Art of Crystal Reading, How to Manifest Your Heartfelt Intentions. And here, I always like to show the book. There we go, with all those crystals that are so significant, as I learned over time. And then the back of the book, a nice little chart of chakras that of which I knew so little. Of course, I mean, you'd have to be my age. You'd hear the word chakra, but what, so what, you know? So anyway, folks, if you happen to meet Dena Marie the way I did, I call her my spiritual leader, healer. She's an author on the pathway that leads her down to the shore on the island she inhabits. Ask her about the chakras, crystals, healing powers she explores, reveals, and sanctifies in her book, Our Energy Matters, The Art of Crystal Reading, How to Manifest Your Heartfelt Intentions. Crystal reading, that was like, what is she talking about? I learned. And she'll most likely open you to what causes happiness and what causes distress in a life. Perhaps she'll remind you that joy comes from not giving up, but looking up. Not giving up on ourselves, but rather looking up and turning to loving friendship, tender compassion, the unique, perfect self, and I put self in my writing in capital letters, yours and mine, joyfully respected. The self joyfully respected. I've begun to understand her trade. She's dual driven by heart and mind, by aspiration, heartfelt intention. Oh, by the energy of open-heartedness, anointed by gleeful mind. Her rising tide of enlightened soul self, crystal guides, Reiki illuminations, powered bright by energized touch. She summons the blessed ancients who by sea came to claim consciousness in the roiling, spellbinding significance of pleasure, hope, significance, something, anything to believe in, on or about, beyond the shallows of hidden self, soul self, beyond greed spit, revenge, retaliation, looking down, false humility, eclipsed heart, shadowed wakefulness. She is leveraged by warrior angel beings, swirling, gliding in chorus, chanting the beatitudes of the sanctified ones, released, unchained from the weight of exclusion, defeat, snarling indifference, glancing inward, looking upward, led ceremoniously to the shoreline, our shoreline, her, Dena Marie's, captive wonderment of spiritual restoration. She lifts spirits by leading her seekers to a divine ceremony of atonement where they find the soul craft of peace, harmony, and inner freedom. Amen. And so and such. Alleluia. Praise the pathway. And also note, learning what I find myself wondering about, actually restoring my sense of learning the art of being a mindful and compassionate witness. And that comes from our energy matters. So, my friend, I come to you today because lately what we've been doing in part during our getting together to do our energy matter recordings is I can ask you an important question, you know, and I think that it becomes very important for our listeners and viewers to hear you, to hear your ideas. Because I read in your book, I read increasing your knowledge about yourself can only lead to a harmonious life, and I had to really stop and consider that. But then I say to you, but what do you say to folks who tell you when they look inside themselves, all they see is confusion and self-loathing?
Wow. You know, I first of all have to say, when I hear your readings, my heart has wings. That's how it feels. And that's how you know what a chakra is, by the way it opens and closes. And so when we have our conversations, my heart opens up, my throat opens up, my mind, and we look up and things feel beautiful. And so as a hypnotherapist, and these are things I never thought I'd come across: shame, guilt, fear, the most beautiful people sitting down with me and just crying and breaking down. And we'd have to go back. When did that happen? When did you feel the first thing of fear? Or when did you feel the first thing of shame? And you go back to something, you know, like I have a 5-year-old listening to her parents not complain. They had to take her somewhere, but they got divorced right after this huge blow up about driving her to her friend's house. She's 5. And the girl was always trying to people please and problem solve with the parents and make them get along. And it went all the way back to 5th grade or 5 years old. Just a little thought in someone's head becomes part of them. Mm-hmm. And over time, we start living all of these little lies because it's not who we are. At 5, we're little kids who are still skipping, jumping, crying spontaneously. And I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, so I know exactly what 5 is. And then it was school. If you're a boy and you cry, or if you're a girl and you want to play sports, all these things add up. And then one day, if we don't do our inner work, I call it inner child work. That's, you know, what they say. If you don't figure it out, you're just mindlessly walking on a treadmill, not satisfied, not fulfilled. And when I started doing these chakra readings, it would show the blocks. And so I could say, I love this guy I work with, and you know, he is into crystals, had no idea. So I bring my book down last week. He does his chakra reading. He's probably 6'4". He's just a big, lovely man. And I go, your heart is breaking. And he's like, no, it's not. I go, well, looks like someone hurt your feelings. And he goes, really? And I go, well, you know, maybe you could write that person a letter and then burn it. He goes, that's a good idea. I don't have to give it to him, right? So he just said that what happened is true, that he's a really big hearted guy, but at this point he's protecting his heart. And so he walked off, and I'm like, he needs to write a letter because it hurt his feelings. And it was, you know, it could be something, like I said, he's a super sensitive, big, lovely man. Who knows who's hurting his feelings? I don't know, but that's how it all started. And then people would tell me things they've never told anybody, and that would open up their energy. And then instead of dis-ease, which is, you know, flowing is ease, dis-ease is blocks, frustration, shame, guilt, fear, all those things that it just started as a child. And then now recently, because, you know, I have the courage to talk about all the past life things again. I just do readings, and people have things from past lives where maybe I had a man who had his tongue cut out. I know that sounds horrible, but that wasn't a past life. And when something happened in the military that he could have saved people's lives, he was afraid to open his mouth. And he even has a cleft palate at this point in his life. As a child, he had it. And then he worked through this with me and my Reiki, and he felt like a whole new person. And this was past life stuff. So, but this life, it carried over, but it's blocks and frustration from eons.
Yeah. And the healing takes time, you know. And there's something else I was thinking about today when I was doing the writing, is that there's also peace, harmony, and inner freedom. So there's a joy in that process that is not, oh, I don't know. It's like when in the days when I found myself needing to go to confession, you know, in those days, that was never a very happy experience. You know, it was a very shameful experience. And when I was in the monastery studying to be a priest, we went to confession every day. And I used to wonder why, you know, what was there to tell, you know. And then also, and I'm not putting, see, I always have to be careful here, because I would never want to put any of that down. If people need to believe, they will believe. But I'm just talking about my own personal experience, where that kind of interaction was not a healing. It was more a humiliation. And so you left looking down.
And you think of force versus flow, right? So you were forced to do something that didn't feel good, which a lot of people are in that treadmill or in that hamster cage, whatever, doing things that don't feel good. When you and I have our once a week conversation, our heart has wings. And when you were doing confession, your heart probably shriveled. And you even told me there were times you had to make up things that you did wrong because you didn't do anything wrong. And you're focusing on, gosh, the darkness of this world instead of the light. And this week I had my spirits lifted by my daughter, because I was living in the past. I couldn't get it out of my mind, and I was being drugged down, almost like that time glass. I just felt like I couldn't get out of it. And I had to reach out to somebody, and she lifted my spirits, and you lift my spirits. And my friend came out of the blue and texted me and lifted my spirits. But if I would have stayed in that energy, God, I probably wouldn't have left my house the next day. You know?
Yeah, well, I absolutely, yes, I do know. And I think that, as you know, I've had the passing of my sister this week. My sister died. You know, it was like such a shock in a way. And then all of a sudden I started, somebody said to me, what about those memories? And my partner said to me, do you have good fond memories about? I said, oh, please. She taught me how to swim in a saltwater pool on the coast in New Jersey, because she said, if I can teach you how to swim in a saltwater pool, you won't feel like you're drowning, because it will hold you up, you know. And she would hold my stomach, and this was like I was around maybe 9 years old, and there's a photograph of me with her there. So I thought, okay, sure. And then, you know, and we would go to mass together, you know, and she's very devout, and it was okay, because she was so honest and so sincere. So all of these beautiful memories start flooding back. And these past couple of days, I mean, she died this week, and these past couple of days when I'm letting her go, hoping that she goes peacefully, and that you know, she lives in the heavens in peace. You know, that I'm sustaining myself with these memories that are really, you know, lifting my spirits.
Yeah. And you can feel the energy rise. You know, the energy rises when I see you swimming. And I love that you'll be buoyant in the salt water, and it'll keep you alive. It just goes with our talk, right? It keeps us alive when we're lifting up and floating. And the lower energies, the root chakra, the sacral, and the solar plexus is the mosh pit of the emotions of fear, guilt, and shame. And you need some of the how do you say survival skills. You need the fight or flight. You need all those skills. But when we're sitting in it, and that's where we come from all the time, there's no inspiration, creativity, imagination. You don't get that inner voice. I love it when my inner voice is spot on and it tells me to do something. It's magical. And synchronistic. And if I can get in that space, and usually I might have to reach out to someone to help me lift my spirits, and then our energy starts to rise, and then you shift the energy around you, our energy matters. So the more I have my heart sing, the more I'm going to attract people that have that same energy, and we can be a tribe or a family and build on it. That's the
Right.
Shampoo.
Yeah. And that's so important. I think we talked about this several times, that's why it's so important to be around people who sustain you, love you, support you, help you. And so many of us live a life without that, or live part of a life without that. And then all of a sudden we come to the realization we need that.
But it's a choice, right? And we have control over that. So you and I have had a relationship that we put someone else, their health and well-being ahead of ours. And that's that self-love. Like, we didn't feel worthy. We didn't value ourselves. We attracted people that we would give our life for almost. And we were the problem. So what we needed to do is pull away from the feeling that doesn't feel good. If someone's with you and it doesn't feel good, take a time out.
Yeah.
Be alone, go in nature. And then when you feel good, this is what Reiki is. When you feel good, like a chiropractor for your spirit, you're walking right, you feel good, stay there as much as you can, because you can get used to being treated poorly. You can get used to be treated disrespectfully at work, anywhere, right, as adults. And we just have to find that time alone to where we feel good, whether it's your writing, your dancing, me getting outside and swimming and being with the sun. And that was just like such a beautiful wink from the universe this week. And I needed that. It got me through. But the more we make conscious decisions to love ourselves, treat ourselves well, that's the magic of other people treating us well.
And I think that's a theme all through your book. That's possible and it can happen. Watch me, you say. Because I do watch you. I mean, your seekers are there. Client seekers, they're there. And they've come to you for some kind of rehabilitation, and it's what the power of it is showing them to be loved and to love.
And the beauty of that also is that ultimately I'm healing myself. So for every person that walked into my room, the woman who held the facade up that was looked like I was on top of the world, is me. The man that bit his tongue and couldn't talk to his family, that's me. Even the kid that I mentored and took to dance school, me. Yeah. So we're all under this big energy. Even the people that even the people that I thought wasn't a good relationship have taught me valuable lessons about me.
Oh, yes. Definitely. Thanks for reminding me about that. Oh, we have to go soon, but let's end by looking up.
Anthony, man, you looked up.
There we go.
I look up all the time. You just did it. Oh.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the thing is, as I said, in this frigid weather, when it was so difficult to go out and try to get some of that ice off the driveway, rather than pouting, I looked up, and it was like the sun was coming up through the crystal trees, and yeah, that was what I needed to do. And I just kind of looked at the splendor of the snow and the ice. No, I don't want to fall, of course, but at the same time, it was a time to look up. So, folks,
I gave you wings. I gave you wings. So there's none of that.
All right, thank you. So, folks, if you want to get closer to Dena Marie's wisdom, listen to her weekly radio show, Lift Your Spirits, on 11:50 a.m. KKNW. She hosts this most of the time. Her website is dena-marie.com. And I always like going there because it's very peaceful. And there's also a scene of her there by the ocean, on the island. She lives on an island. You'll also find, in my interview with Dena Marie is at anthonymannabooks.com. anthonymannabooks.com. So if you go to my website, go to the media tab, and you'll see she's there, along with a lot of other people who because I deal with a lot of authors for children's books and young adult literature and new adult literature. And you'll see a lot of references to poetry there and book lists and also activities for anybody who reads Loukas and the Game of Chance, which is, I can show you that before we go, I think. Am I allowed? Oh yes, 23 minutes. Okay, there it is. Loukas and the Game of Chance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 awards. Huh?
And a serpent is the Kundalini energy of the chakras.
Yay!
Our way back home.
Back home. And thank you so much.
Yay.
Yay. Have a good time. Everybody, thank you so much for viewing and listening. And you can always get in touch with us. And thank you.
See you next week.
Next week. Thank you. Bye-bye, Dena Marie. Bye-bye.